All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the Owen J. Roberts School District Board of Directors working session meeting. The Board of Directors utilizes this working session process as a way to consider agenda items as one large committee for the purposes of discussion and debate in full view of the public. It is not a time for the public to engage with the board, rather a time for the public to observe the work of the various committees. We're going to move on to item 2, which is district goals. Dr. Stout.
Sure, thank you, Madam President. So this evening we're going to talk about the goals for the 2021-2022 school year. Before we get into the goals, just want to talk a little bit about the process that we've been using. The district this year is going to be embarking on the strategic plan or comprehensive planning process that we're required to do through PDE, Pennsylvania Department of Education, every 3 years. So we are going to be doing that throughout this school year. So we will have a large stakeholder group to develop our strategic plan for the next 3 years. My vision actually for the strategic plan is to develop a 6-year strategic plan, and in that 3-year period, we would just be evaluating it and just making some minor modifications. I think 6 years is more appropriate if we're really trying to chart the direction for the district. So that being said, the goals that we have for this school year are based off of our current strategic plan, and they're actually aligned with the goals that we had last year. With a couple caveats that I want to throw in, the process that we've used this year to develop our goals is we're working with Performance Fact, which is a company run by Mutiyu Fagbaya. And Mutiyu is a consultant who's done a lot of work for the Pennsylvania Department of Education. He was the one that those of you that have been around for a while, when districts had to do comprehensive plans many years ago, there was a template and a whole process, and that was designed by his organization. So Mutiyu met with the board and our leadership team in a work session in August, and really helped us get together and work collaboratively to develop these goals. So for tonight, what I would like to do is just go over those 5 goals, and I have our administrative team here, and each of our administrators were put into a group, and we worked with several board members, like I said, in collaboration to develop those goals. So for this evening, we're going to go through with the administrators and talk about the goals that the group that they were working on. So I'm first going to start with Dr. Soder, who had the first 2 goals.
Good evening. So the 2 goals that our group took a look at were specific to student learning and growth. And in that first part of that first goal, as we have done in the past, this is a very important year for us to be looking at student growth, specifically in language arts and mathematics. So that's the first goal for student learning and growth. Our second goal is developing educational pathways for the next steps. And so this is something that we've done in the past, but we have perhaps not really fully articulated that for each grade level. And so that's a communication piece that we'll be working with our principals on throughout the year. The third goal is one where we would be researching and developing a plan specific for students who make more than that year's growth in a year's time, and looking for them to have additional enrichment opportunities. So this is one where we would be working closely with our pupil services department. The second part of our goal relates to curriculum assessment, instruction, and interventions. So first part for this goal is having a regionally competitive cyber academy, and we are underway with that right now. We do recognize that families have made a choice for cyber education this year for a variety of reasons. And so while increasing enrollment is not necessarily part of our goal, we would certainly want to retain our students in the school district. They may wish to be returning to in-person learning, but we would certainly want them to be maintaining their enrollment in our schools. Second part of that goal is taking a look at the communication skills component that is currently taught in our ELA classes and providing feedback and practice for that in our other core courses. Third part of that goal is looking for expanded academic offerings, and we have that in mind for several different areas, elementary, middle, and high school, and we'll be taking a look at that, as Dr. Stout suggested, when we are considering the strategic plan and the goals that would be perhaps long-term, and what we might be able to put into place for the next year's budget year. So those are the specific goals for student learning and growth, as well as the curriculum and assessment and instruction and interventions.
Thank you, Dr. Soder. Next, for Goal 2, which is a safe and caring environment, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Marchini.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. This safe and caring environment, the first component has to do with healthy relationships. The idea here is that students would be able to understand and voice their own boundaries, confidence in relation to their self, and also navigate complex relationships. You've probably heard us talk about this before with the Crimes Victim Center programming starting in 2nd grade with Safe Touches program all the way through 11th and 12th to, that would be the more complex relationships, both with peers, staff, and also those that might be of romantic nature. So we want to use the Crimes Victim Center and also research some other programs that we can utilize to better gauge the students' outcomes. A decreased percentage of students report being hurt or abused. As you can see there, students grades 8 through 10 who report experiencing emotional abuse, name calling, and insults. This is directly from our PAYS survey. That's a Pennsylvania Youth Survey. We noticed one of the large trends was students reporting very specifically insults, name calling, and emotional abuse, and we contribute that somewhat to online issues. So we have that as an outlier in our data, or a trend in our data. I apologize, not outlier, but a trend in our data. And we'd like to work on that, and then we'll be doing the PAYS survey again this year to see where we end up. And an increased number of opportunities for students to take higher level classes at secondary level. The high school and middle school have been researching how to incorporate more programs so that students can, I guess, challenge themselves in their coursework, and also increase that opportunity for them. Increased behavioral tiered interventions for students. In this case, we have a very big focus in pupil services on mental health and services for students. Very often in younger students up till middle school, you often see the mental health manifest itself in behavioral issues. And so we want to make sure we give them the right support that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marchini. And then the next goal we have is fiscal responsibility, and then effective and efficient operations. And I'll turn it over to Mrs. Crumrine to talk about that.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. Related to fiscal responsibility, the first goal, 3.1, is to develop a 2-year plan, which recommends resource allocation after the grant funding goes away, which that happens in 2023. So we'll really need to assess the programs, including the Cyber Academy and other student support systems that we've put in place, which items are going to remain, and how we are going to fund that. Then the next item is the budget goal. And we're really mindful, staying very mindful, that we're going to stay within the state mandated limits and start with a tax neutral position. That is something that we started last year. And we also have 3 years worth of projections for the operating fund. And we also do 5 years worth of projections for the capital fund. And this budget, one of the priorities is to restore the 1 mil of real estate taxes that the board waived last year when we were balancing the budget in light of COVID restraints. So hopefully we'll be able to get out of that and fund that so that we keep, so that we're maintaining that transfer over to capital. And then the next goal under fiscal responsibilities is really taking a look and creating a workforce plan recommendation that optimizes our staffing budget and prioritizes direct instruction which really reverts back to 1A and B. And we're making sure and ensuring that we're supporting those goals. The next area, goal 4, is effective and efficient operations. As most everyone knows, the lease to our warehouse expires in August of '22, and we've had a multi-year plan to evaluate that, the cost benefit of extending the lease. We're renovating the old East Country Elementary School building, which is vacant. Those were our goals last year. It was determined that we would move forward and renovate the former East Country Elementary School, and we are in the process of that. And then the goal around that is to make sure that we're in the building prior to vacating the lease. So the goal is to be in there by July 31st, and that we're doing it within our projected goal, our break-even time period of 6 years, financial break-even. The next goal for efficient and effective operations is to implement district-wide energy savings. We are in the process of that evaluation and in the process of an investment-grade audit. So as soon as that will come up next month, actually. And one of the goals is to implement any recommendations where we can maintain the estimated cost projections, as well as energy savings that were projected. And the last goal under efficient, effective operations is taking a look at the feasibility study. We did have a feasibility study that was completed, but we kind of had to put some of those things aside because we were in the middle of COVID. We really want to make sure we're revisiting the feasibility study. That was done with community involvement and prioritizing our top 3 items and really looking to what we're going to be implementing over the next couple of years and make recommendations back to the board. That's all, Dr. Stout.
Okay, thank you. And then the last goal this evening, I'll talk about this, communications and community relations. So we have 3 action plans under there. And the first one, schedule and conduct listening sessions in each school during the fall of the 2021-2022 school year. And then utilize the stakeholder feedback that we get from these listening sessions as part, utilize that, analyze that, and use that as information when we're developing the strategic plan moving forward that I referenced at the beginning of this discussion. Just to add on to this, just in my discussions with the board and board leadership, that was something that was done previously in the district and was found to be quite powerful. So I've attended during my transition all of the PTA meetings in the district, but I think to schedule these listening sessions and just get out and hear from community stakeholders, I think is very important, particularly as we're trying to develop our strategic plan moving forward. The second action plan under that goal is to complete an audit of the O&J Roberts current communications plan, procedures, and practices, and then utilize the results of that audit to develop a district-wide communication plan for disseminating and receiving information from stakeholders. This is something we are working on with the Chester County Intermediate Unit. They have a very large and comprehensive communications department. They have a lot of experience, not only with their own communications, but assisting districts with communications. So we want them to take a real extensive look at our communication procedures and practices in the district and give us some guidance moving forward. At this time, we're also working with one of their communications specialists who's been helping us with our communications so far. So we're looking forward to doing that complete audit and just really getting some good insights as how that we can better communicate with our students and families and stakeholders in the district. And then the last action plan under community relationships is to develop a comprehensive stakeholder survey aligned with our strategic plan goals and outcomes to be administered to O&J Roberts students, parents, and staff in the spring of each school year. I think it's important that we're getting information and longitudinal information that we can look at each year. So we are going to be looking to develop this survey. We will give it, like I said, to all of our students. We'll also give it to all of our staff and then our families as well, just to get information as to where we're at and areas that we need to improve. And then I think even more importantly, like I said, give it each year so then we're able to have benchmarks and see where we're doing and how we're improving or areas we need to continue to improve in. So that's an overview of our 5 goals. As I've mentioned, the 5 goals are similar to last year. but where you'll see differences in the actual action plans to accomplish those goals. So at this time, we'll take any questions from board members who, as I said at the beginning, we're actively involved in this process.
I just had a quick question on 5.2. It says that we're creating a plan. Are we going to have a goal to actually implement the plan this year? Or when does the plan actually get implemented?
Yeah, I think we're already implementing the plan and working on our communications, but it's important to get that audit, that complete audit, to see where we may have some shortcomings. But there's
Right.
already things that we're doing in working with the Chester County Intermediate Unit to improve our communications. And I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about
Right.
our communications
So
thus far.
the outcome of the audit is a plan,
Correct.
right? So that plan, is that going to be implemented when?
I would think once we get the audit, we will begin implementing that immediately.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I was impressed by the safe and caring one. What was it? 2.2, to decrease the number who report experiencing emotional abuse or name calling by half. Do we think that that is a reasonable goal? It sounds like a dramatic number.
Dr. Marchini, any feedback on that?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love it.
We like challenges. I think it just, because it was very specific to insults, name calling, things like that, and maybe more specifically online through technology that they're reporting, we're hoping we can make a huge dent. It seems unacceptable to have anything of that nature that our students are reporting. So half seemed like a reasonable first try.
Where are these reports going to be gathered that you're going to be able to evaluate whether they've been halved?
So the PAYS survey, Pennsylvania Youth Survey, we took the data from 2019, which was our most recent. We are giving that PAYS survey to students. It's every other year to the even grade, starting 6th grade, so 6, 8, 10, and 12. So we're going to be giving that in October of this year. We might not know the exact percentage at the end of this year, but we can compare the two and then look at the next PAYS survey that comes around. So it's based on that survey data, and they ask the same questions consistently. We also can see, the goal has 8th and 10th grade. We can see 2019 cohort, which was 6th grade. So you can file the cohorts as well.
Is that survey mandatory? I've heard some just kind of rumblings about some families are not comfortable with their child taking that survey. So I'm kind of concerned about that being the only measurement that's going to be used.
It's not mandatory. Parents can opt out just by asking. There's a passive agreement, but if we send a letter, and then when the parents say they don't want to, the students do not have to take it. We get a large percentage of students that do take it. It's done across the state, so there's also some other data related to local schools and statewide data as well.
Mrs. DiMarino, to follow up on your question, and that's what I alluded to, I think it's important for us to have a strategic planning survey that we're administering each spring, and really that will be our assessment as to how we're doing. And I would like to keep that fairly consistent. Now, if we have changes to our strategic plan, we may have to change some of the questions, but I really think it's important to get that data from year to year to see how we're doing. But with any survey, we do not require students to take it. So even our internal strategic planning survey that we'll put together in the spring, parents and students will have the opportunity to opt out of that if they so choose.
Can parents see the survey anywhere so they can decide whether they want to opt out? Is it available ahead of time? I know it's
Yeah.
similar, but
Correct. The PAYS survey, Dr. Marchini, I haven't given it for a while, but I believe it is. So parents can view that beforehand. And similarly, once we develop a strategic planning survey, we would allow parents to see that as well. Plus, parents will be getting a version for themselves.
And just one more question on this. When we were talking about this is 2.1, like tools for navigating complex relationships and that type of thing. And Dr. Marchini mentioned the elementary program with the safe touches and stuff like that. So are we actually implementing any new plans to try to improve these numbers? Or are we just doing the same thing and hoping that these numbers would be different?
So we're going to continue the Crimes Victim Center program, which part of it was interrupted because of COVID. So we want to definitely continue their programs. We're looking at a couple other programs to pilot that actually they're supplemental to our health program that we already have in place. So the health curriculum goes over this already, but we want to have some supplementary programs that also survey the students as well, so they can indicate whether the objectives, those goals, are actually realized.
Okay, and my final question on this topic. You also talked about like relationships, like possibly romantic relationships. What age do we start addressing that? Because I also know that there's a lot of diverse opinions on when that's appropriate, if at all, in public school.
So there's a progression from, I said the Safe Touches, which is actually like a puppet show for second graders and a parent program. There's a progression that goes through, and we can certainly share with the board that progression of topics that goes from second all the way to 11th grade. I would say that peer-to-peer relationship starts about sixth grade, and more complex, to use that word, complex relationships, is probably more end of sixth, beginning of seventh grade.
I'd be really interested in seeing that material at some point.
Yeah, it's on. I can send it to the board. It's the descriptions were sent out, I believe, the last 2 years, and also on the Crimes Victim Center's educational resources page. That's a public website, but I can certainly send it out, and it gives you the progression, each grade, and the topics that you can choose from that. And we would follow the same thing with any supplemental programs that goes through our health program.
Okay, great, thanks.
I just have a quick question for Jackie. On 4.2, is there an end date to that goal?
I'm sorry, Mr. DeFore, is there an end date?
Is there an end date to that goal, right? So it looks like it's being implemented. We did an audit of energy savings. We're putting it through motion, we're funding it. Is there a goal end date?
I mean, in the detailed goals, in the objectives, there are specific dates. So for example, in October is when you'll have the recommendation for the steps. The funding has already been put in place.
Right.
And then when we present in October, the recommendations, it'll have a timeline along with it.
Okay, so that's when we'll get
Yes,
this is when it's actually going to happen.
absolutely. And it may be phased and it may be different because there are different types of improvements that will be recommended for energy efficiency, such as.
Do we have to vote on those, or do they just happen?
Well, the vote will be when they're done the investment grade audit and they pull out the most cost-efficient recommendations. That will come to you next month.
Gotcha.
And then the board will choose or determine what they would like to move forward. So you're definitely going to vote on it.
Okay, good. Thank
Sure.
you.
Mhm.
I would just also like to say that we are ready to go out to bid on the East Coventry realignment to a district-wide service center.
Yes, you got to be closer. It's on now.
It's on.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we are ready to go out to bid for the East Coventry district-wide service center. So that project is in place, and we hope also to present a bid winner in October, if I'm not mistaken. So that we'll be moving forward on both those issues, the Giza project and the district-wide service center. Could you hear me that time?
Yep.
Okay.
Any more? Do you have a question? Okay, you can move on.
Well, I'll ask another question if nobody else has a question. Regarding 5.1, That was the communications plan and the listening sessions. The listening sessions we did before were basically geared towards certain topics of, belonging and inclusion and things. If I understood Dr. Stout correctly, it seems like we're kind of opening this up to any item that's in the strategic plan, and that's what these listening sessions would be based on. Is that right?
To be honest, I haven't defined them yet exactly, if we're going to keep them open or just tied with the strategic plan. I would want to engage in some conversations with board leadership to determine the approach we want to take with that.
Okay.
Can we move on to item 4?
What's that?
Move on to item 4?
We're moving on to the next item.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're moving on to item 4, which is Curriculum and Special Education Committee. I think we're teeing that up to you. Oh, did I miss that one? Sorry. Sorry. You said Kathy. Sorry. All right, so we've got to do item 3, which is the 2021 PSBA slate of candidates. So Jackie, remind me, do we have to move forward a specific number of people to the full board for?
Sure. What we're doing right now is Maria sent out a Google form for all of the board members to vote on which candidates they want to move forward. So it's president-elect, vice president, different zone representatives, and trustee and steering committee. So based on the results of the board's votes, those are the individuals that will move forward to the September board meeting. You'll vote on that. That'll be a majority. And then I'll actually go online and vote for you.
Okay.
On PSBA's website, and then just file the voting receipt so that you will have input into the officers at PSBA.
Okay.
Okay?
Anything else I got to do with that?
No, I don't think so. All of the candidate information is included in board docs, so you should have everything you need.
Okay.
Okay?
And then the voting is still open for the board members to complete on that Google form?
Correct.
Okay, so just a
Correct.
reminder to board members to go into that Google form and fill that out.
And actually, if it's easier for you, I have forms here too. You can do it before you leave. Whatever is easiest for you, we can compile it.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
When,
Thank you.
up until when can we fill out the Google form, Jackie?
Probably the board meeting's on the 20th, so the Wednesday before, so nice. Like 15th, September 15th?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So moving on to item 4, which is Curriculum and Special Education Committee. Dr. Soder.
So we did want to provide an update regarding supports for students who are quarantined. We do have some students who are home right now and need to be quarantined. And so depending on the grade level of the student and the subjects that they're currently taking, that determines how they receive their support. So for our elementary children, we are using sort of a first layer approach with a building substitute. So that person coordinates and gets the work from the classroom teacher, and our academic coach in each of our elementary schools creates a Google Classroom for the child to come into, and then that building substitute will provide some synchronous instruction for the children in that particular grade level throughout the day. And it does vary for the grade level, and it varies for the subjects, for the amount of time. And then, of course, they have some independent work to do. For our older elementary students, our students in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, they might be able to go into Google Classroom and, again, get assignments directly from their own class and also connect with that building substitute and get some synchronous instruction. We are prioritizing reading at the primary level and mathematics and reading for our intermediate level elementary students. For middle school students who may be home and quarantined, they will receive their assignments through Google Classroom with their classroom teachers. Those teachers are reaching out to them as well. The Scholastic coach will also contact the student and provide synchronous instruction, provide support if need be. And again, it will depend on the subject. For high school students, similarly, they will have access to the Canvas page for their classroom. The classroom teacher will be reaching out to them and making sure that those assignments are updated on Canvas. And again, if needed, the Scholastic coach will reach out to the student and provide some support and connect with the classroom teacher in order to assist students who may be home while they're quarantined. Sorry, Lydia, do you want to take this back?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I was getting off mute. I'm sorry, what are you asking me, Leslie?
Do you want
Just
to,
to
as
take
the
it as
curriculum chair? Yeah, do you want to?
Well, this was a request by the board to learn more about how we would handle quarantined kids and continuing education, which is what I was just going to hand off to Kathy, and she just updated, so I'd open it up to any questions.
yeah, I have a question. When we're talking about like high school kids that have advanced courses, are they going to receive any video instruction or anything on Canvas? I know that maybe isn't typical for every teacher to always video a lesson, but if we have a lot of kids that are in need of this, I'm thinking like particularly of like math courses. You know, kids have a hard time just reading a lesson and doing and learning math like that. So I'm wondering if we are asking teachers to video lessons for kids, especially in advanced math classes and similar things.
Right now, our teachers are working directly with the students. So we actually have some videos available specifically in mathematics, things that were previously created, as well as things that are directly available to the students through Khan Academy that our students have accessed. So some of that is somewhat already taken care of. And for students who need something more, that is something that our Scholastic coaches would then coordinate for them.
Okay, so each high school student can get access to a Scholastic coach?
If needed, yes. We've had Scholastic coaches reach out to students who have been quarantined, yes.
Okay.
So maybe I missed this. Are we using cameras at all?
Not exclusively, if that's requested and needed, but they're really trying to work through the classroom teacher and the Scholastic coaches first.
Okay. If a student requests to see his classroom, do we accommodate them for seeing his classroom on video as it's live or no?
It's really depending on what the
on the
student
teacher.
needs right now. And they're
Okay.
trying to start first with having the classroom teacher and having the Scholastic coach work with the student independently.
Okay, and then we're assessing these students to see how or if they're able to catch up.
Right. Right.
Correct.
And some of them are returning sooner.
Yeah.
So correct. At this point, at this time, we're not using the videos. We're meeting each student where they're at. Teachers are having conversations, but as we've shared before, we have the capacity if we need to. If we have to quarantine a significant number of students, that's something we can do. But right now, we're trying to individualize it for each student when they're out.
Right, that was my other question. What is our tipping point? Right, when we have to take additional measures. So, again, I always like to plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? So we have to understand what that's going to look like, what the worst is going to look like, and be prepared for it, right? Hopefully, we never have to use it, but you never know. Good.
Any other questions? Or did we even answer that? What is the tipping point?
Do we know?
Did you notice I didn't answer that question?
Yeah, I noticed, like, I thought you had to go back and figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Well, that's
we,
good
yeah,
answer.
Lydia, we did not define that at this point. I mean, obviously, we have conversations with our administrators and with our teachers. You know, right now, fortunately, we're at the point where we're able to meet the students' needs. And, you know, I've had several parents that I've spoken with and that have been pleased with the responsiveness that they've seen from the teachers. So right now, we're okay. But if we get to the point where we determine that we're not, again, we'll engage in those conversations with our principals and teachers. And if we have to, then we'll implement the cameras.
Thank you. No
Okay.
other questions, Leslie. You can take it to 5.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to item 5. Whose buildings and grounds? Melissa.
Yes. The committee has to approve the plaque for Ron Pearson. It has been paid for by the committee that brought this to our attention. And I think, there it is. We do have a visual of it there, so all the board will not have to vote on this again. We already did vote on the approval. But if the committee is happy with the plaque, it is intended at this moment to be mounted outside the door of the weight room, correct? Yes, so if the committee is fine with that, it will proceed. Committee good with it?
Looks good.
Can I just ask a question? So I see in the executive content that this is the proposed proof for the plaque from the group
Right,
that created
the plaque
the.
is not actually cast yet.
No,
It's
yes, but
bronze,
this was
yeah.
just what had been proposed by the community.
Right.
Gotcha.
Has
Yes.
family seen this plaque or?
No, that's the visual, what it will be.
What it
It's
will
going to
be.
be cast in bronze. We did not
Okay.
pay for it. The committee proposing that he be honored did gather the funds to pay for that, but we will be mounting it when it is ready. Do we have an idea, Jackie, of if we go forward tonight, of when it would be finalized?
I would actually have to reach back out
Mm-hmm.
to Nikki, but we wanted to get the committee's approval for
Right.
the plaque. The board did approve this to be done in November of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was really the next opportunity we had after they raised all of the funds and then provided just a template of what the plaque would look like.
Right.
Does the public or his family weigh in on the plaque at all?
Yes, so
think
just can I
Lydia-
level set for a second? I'm not on the committee.
Absolutely.
I'm not on the committee, but I led the naming committee that was in charge of bringing this to the table back last year. So just a quick level set for memory purposes. We went through the naming committee, we brought it back to the board approved this being done. And then it wasn't the committee that raised the funds, just to be clear, it was the community that raised the funds. So a lot of very interested people in honoring Ron Pearson, and then a few in particular who have been wonderful, and they have raised the money for this. And then they created this template. This is the proof that they were proposing to us, along with the family who has also seen this. So this is their proposal to us, and for us to just basically bless that this proof looks good to go, but we've already approved it existing and being put up.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
correct. I don't think you were on the board when we
No.
went through that.
I wasn't.
Okay, yes, we did.
So it's just a matter of
Yeah, so you.
thumbs
happy?
up and
Yes,
looks,
thumbs up.
I think it looks
Yeah, I
real
think
great.
it looks great. Yeah.
I'm not on the committee, but my 2 cents looks great. And I
Right.
think you should go cast it and put it up.
Well, that's good. I do just have one item I would like just to mention for the future. Several years ago, when we did name the field, the Hank Burnett Field, there was a conversation about creating some kind of wall of fame. And I just thought I might bring it up again for future boards that might want to look at it. I felt it would be best if it were outside where more people would be able to witness it, not just teachers or coaches, but students as well. We've had many honorable students who have gone through the program. It's just a thought. So in the future, you might want to bring that forward.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think we should have, is it a ceremony? I've never done one of these things, I know, in Jay. Do we
Well,
have a
there will
ceremony
be.
when it goes up and everything? And
Yes, there will be.
awesome, good.
Yeah. I think that's all I have at the moment, other than
going
Mrs.
out to
Booth,
bid Would you
shortly.
mind, can we have a motion and a second
Oh,
from
I'm
the
sorry.
committee? That would be
Yes.
wonderful.
I got head shakes, but yes. Would anyone care to move on this?
So moved.
It's on the committee.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Of course. I agree. So we're on. All right,
you.
I'm done.
Okay. And then item 6 is adjournment. All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Good night.